There's actually one more part to this project that I completely forgot to cover in the last video. The last thing I want to do here is make it so that when you click on these titles here, it actually links you to these games. So we don't just have a picture, like a picture of all of our games. We can actually get to all of our games from this page, which will be super useful when you want to actually share these games or maybe put them on an actual website. And most of that process is not going to be programming. It's sort of going to be file management. So if you go ahead and you open your File Explorer and you find the directory in which all of your files are saved. For me, that's Google Drive and tutorial code. And then in my code projects folder, I have all of the different games I've made so far. What we're going to do to make these files accessible to our portfolio game is we're going to take both of these things, the adventure game and the clicker game, these folders, and drag them inside of our portfolio project. Moving that all in there is nice for a couple of reasons. The most important of which is it makes it really easy for our index page to go into these folders and access the files in here to link to these two games. It's a little more confusing when you have to go back and forward different directories to get to your projects. The way that I would recommend you structure your programs from now on is whenever you make a new project inside this portfolio project, go ahead and just create a new folder. So like if you want to do a project later, I'm planning on an RPG game, right? Create the RPG game here, and then in that RPG game folder, create your whole project for the game. And then you can always link to it in your index portfolio page. And you can just keep adding on to that portfolio as you add more games. But let me show you how to add the links to what we already have here, the adventure game and the clicker game. So if we go into our index file, what we want to link is these H3s here, like the H3 for the adventure game. And there's another tag that we can use called an A tag. And an A tag, just like all the other tags, pretty simple. It looks like this. You have the opening A tag here, and the A tag is going to surround whatever text you want to be the link. So in this case, I want this part, this text, to be the link. If I click on this text, it takes me somewhere. So I put the opening A tag and the closing A tag around that. And then in the A tag, we're going to have an attribute, and the attribute is going to be called href. And the href attribute is going to reference the location of these files. So for the adventure game, our file is we are on the index page here. This is our portfolio index page. We're going to then say adventure, because that's the name of this file, adventure. And then inside of that file, we want the index page, which for me, yours is probably called index.html or something. Mine is called adventure master. So I'm going to say the name of that file, adventure_master.html. Now, if I save and reload this page, when I click on adventure game, it should take me to my actual adventure game. If I click back, I'll be back at my portfolio projects. I also want to do that with the clicker game, but that brings me to one thing real quick. Typically, when you're doing file paths, when you're doing any coding, you don't want to have spaces inside of your file names. The reason is spaces really confuse computers. They don't know if a space usually means like the end of a command or the start of the next command, or if there's actually two words with a space in between. It's very confusing for them. So generally, good practice is to not have spaces in your project or file names ever. So if you want to have a space, you can have an underscore instead. You could also just combine the words like this, say clicker, and then capitalize the G in game. Personally, I usually go for underscores, but it's up to you. So now that we don't have any evil spaces confusing our computer, the next thing we're going to do is put that same A tag around the clicker game. And the closing A tag will move to the other side of it. So this will be our highlighted part. This will be the part that links. And then again, we're going to say href. And this time what we're linking to is inside of the clicker games directory, inside of the clicker games folder, clicker_games, and then slash, which means inside of that folder, we're going to link to, I called it index_master.html. Now when I reload, I should be able to also get to my clicker game. Interesting, it doesn't show up. So what that probably means is I messed up one of my links somewhere. So let's go back into my File Explorer and see if I can spot what I missed. And it looks like I said this is clicker game and this is clicker games. So let's make sure that's the same. Reload our page, and there we go. Now I can get to my clicker game from my portfolio. I can get to my adventure game from my portfolio, and this makes it actually a pretty useful page. So now in the future, when you create new games, you can create a new folder for the game, and then add them to your portfolio index page, and they'll all show up in the same place. You can make a big giant list of all of your games. I'm not going to link to the portfolio project because that's obviously this page, although we could do that. Let's do that just for fun, just so that they all look the same. So once again, I'll put in an A tag around the title, and the closing A tag on the other side. Now you are actually just allowed to reference the page itself. So if I look at my File Explorer, this page is in this directory already, and it's called index.html. So I would just say href index.html. So a little pointless, but there you go. If you click it, it'll reload the page. And there you are. Now you have a place to store all of your games. And now we actually have reached the end of the portfolio project. So I hope that all made sense, and I will see you guys in the next project.